All right, please. So we'll call this meeting to order, and we'll start off with a roll call.
Yes, Chair Craig,
Here.
Vice Chair Miller,
Here.
Director Divins, here, and Director Rennie is absent today.
Okay, so public comment on any matters not listed on the agenda. Don't see any random members from the public who came in to see what we're up to. So we'll move to the consent calendar, which is very long. So we got A through Q. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, or with any motions, or to pull an item?
I probably should have written those down. Did have a couple of quick questions. One of them was, have we any lessons learned in one of the contracts or something? Oh, for the printing one? All right.
I want to talk about 1P.
P. All right, so we'll pull one P.
Policy.
And I guess that's 1I.
One I.
Sorry, I usually write this down, but I didn't.
Yeah, I brought it with me, but it's okay.
1A. That's all right, I've got mine.
The consent calendar is so long, I just thought we were talking about all of it.
No.
I told my office I may not be back today.
I know, we.
So we should talk about 1D.
1D. Smartphones.
Two pages here. Yeah, 1F, these are my comments are just minor, nothings, but. I
So you
thought I
want
would
to pull
ask.
one F?
Yeah,
F
and here's the other one, 1E.
and E. All right, so then we're looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar except for items 1D, 1E, 1F, 1I, and 1T.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so let's go back to 1D,
Cell phones.
cell phones.
So the idea on this one, I mean, the question,
Did you have a question, or did you want to just?
Comment, I mean, everybody has to
okay.
have a cell phone, why would there be a stipend?
well, we don't provide cell phones for folks, and
We don't
use-
provide them electricity or water either, but they're a necessary element to live. Virtually nobody doesn't have a cell phone now. We never provided stipends for home phones back in the dial-up days, right? My issue is that cell phones are ubiquitous, everybody has one. So why would we provide a stipend for a cell phone?
Could I?
It's not the details, it's sort of the bigger
Yeah.
basic
So,
question.
just to refresh memories, this was added when SVCE started. So what we are asking for is something very minor, which has to do with cybersecurity, to actually give us the ability to wipe the phones if they leave. And so changing the policies and procedures to do that. So I think your question though is a very valid one, just
It's
overall.
a different kind of.
Why would one have? Well, the board decided that that made sense
Last April,
last year,
2017.
2017. So I think it may be, I get where everyone has a cell phone, so why provide that? I think as we look at just benefits and compensation too, we can, yeah, there's no strong reason today, given that everyone has it. I would be, given that the agenda item in front of you is just on the cybersecurity piece, I would be, yeah, anyway,
It's a different discussion.
that's right, yes.
Okay.
I'll just weigh in. When I saw this, some people, everybody, yes, has a cell phone. Some people have a very limited plan. Some people get like a smart talk, or they'll get Ting with 1 gigabyte of data. And if we're expecting employees to have, and this isn't for all employees from what I read, it's only for
That's correct.
certain employees. And if you're expecting an employee to conduct a lot of business on a cell phone
Can't be available.
and be available, then I thought it was a reasonable request to have one of these.
How's that different from a landline? How does that differ from, I mean,
Because the
that's,
world is different now.
I think the
Yeah.
consensus,
but that's my point, is I think you guys are living in 2010.
So
No, I know a number of people who.
I know giant corporations that have completely eliminated this for every single person in the corporation, and our city's eliminated for all except for the extreme manager levels,
And I think that's who this is for.
because it's just an expectation. And we'll get to the next level. I'm not gonna stand in your way, I'm just asserting a perspective of the way the world has changed.
I think it's as you recognize, it is a different discussion, actually part of
Yes.
a broader discussion. I think we've started down that discussion in terms of even things like self-directed benefits.
Right.
Why even bother about choosing? Just put it all as part of the big picture compensation and allow our employees to go down that path of picking what they want.
What they want.
Right.
I don't think we're there yet. And I think we've gone through, especially with the Finance and Admin Committee, to do that. So I think we'll tee it up as maybe our next review of benefits.
Buried into your general
Yep.
cafeteria thought.
Right.
Okay, so then is it okay?
Yes.
Chair, I move 1D.
Okay,
So, second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and now we are on 1E. This is to execute an agreement with Richards,
Yeah.
Watson, and Gershon for legal services.
Thank you. Comment's very simple, is are there any changes to this contract? And if there are, sometimes it's nice for the board to see a red line version of it. And what were the significant changes?
Yeah, the only two changes were, we changed the rates in the Exhibit B, and we'll redline that for the next board meeting. And the amount has increased to $145,000 based on historical usage and the new rates. So those are the two changes. Everything else, scope-wise, is the same.
And what did it change from?
It was $130,000, so it's moved to $145,000 this coming year.
Okay,
And Richard Watson is the company that employs.
That's
Chris.
correct.
Yeah, right. No, I have no objection, I'm just
Mhm.
pointing it out for the
Yeah.
board's benefit. You might want to add it to the staff report somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And then way you don't have to deal with the whole red line copy, but this is. And the only other question I had was, we have modified contracts over the past year for different kinds of consultants. Have all of those changes been incorporated into this agreement if they're relevant? Did anybody cross-check that?
As far as any language, scope, that's been, we
All
worked
of
with,
that's been tweaked?
yes, and we worked with Greg too on that.
Okay, so I would add that in, that this contract has now been updated to reflect all contract modifications relevant to this type of service, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
I'm sure there are board members and board directors who ask
and
that
it's
question.
make things go smoother too, I think.
If it's a consent item, you might as well get it all out there.
Yep.
Okay, so I move item E.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now to 1F, and that is the agreement with Mail R Us for
And-
printing and mailing services.
In my comment, and forgive me if I didn't read enough in the detail of this, did we have any requirements for recycled paper and recycled ink? Or environmentally sounding?
Yes.
Got all that, thank you.
Yep.
I move item F.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay,
I would, if I didn't see it, you might want to just highlight that that has been the policy and is continuing to be.
and 1I, which is to execute an amended agreement with Pacific Energy Advisors.
Excuse me for 1 sec. It may be the same comment about contracts and having it all be updated and what changed. Okay, I think that was basically it, it's the same kind of comment. Has anything changed? In the, what has changed, if anything, And is it consistent with all the contract modifications?
And provide a red line when we do it at the board.
Do you do want a red line?
I think you gotta provide red line, because even if you say here are the changes, you know,
And we did update.
council members can ask for a red line.
Well, that's what I was wondering, but okay.
And we updated some, the scope on this contract as well as converting it to a time and materials, so we'll redline that for the board meeting.
So, yeah, you got here, the amended agreement provides for the following, but it doesn't really identify the changes, does it? Experience support provided, but the amendment agreement will allow the maximum flexibility. I don't think it really, and the cost,
The cost was still going to be 300,000.
$390.
Yes,
plus
390.
90. Yep.
So I guess I'm just picking up the typical kind of questions we
Yep.
ask at council, which is, what changed?
Yeah. It doesn't hurt to put a red line in, because then there's no issue. When Jeannie says, well, what exactly changed, and you know how she reads every word,
Right.
it'll be easy.
So the amount on here is the same, but you're right, we made some changes to scope, and we'll update that.
What made you think I was thinking of Jeannie?
It's all on tape.
I was thinking of Jeannie, I don't know who you were thinking
All right,
I move passage of item 1I.
of. Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
And then 1P, the volunteer time off policy.
Yeah, okay, I don't mean to throw a wrench into it or be out in left field. There are two types of policies I've seen. One is the organization allows you to take time off, which kind of reads more like a vacation-y kind of thing. The other one is totally different, which is, you know, you're a professional, you have to manage your time. But if you volunteer, we will make a donation, we will pay that organization. So I think Apple's at $50 an hour, which is a little on the outrageous side. But, you know, if you volunteer at your local, you know, food pantry, if you put in 10 hours, Apple will donate $500. And the way that it's connected is Apple has a matching program. If you donate $1,000, Apple will match $1,000 to that same charity. But not every employee is in a position to be able to give money.
So they give time
And
instead.
so you could give time, so you donate your time, and Apple will match the time with money. And then between the two programs, they actually cap how much per person they will contribute. So what you proposed here, I'm actually fine with, but I thought there was a more cutting edgy thing that may serve, it's the other end of the spectrum. People who can give time but they can't give money.
I find a very intriguing idea, and I think just from John's head nods, he's also kind of like, I'd suggest maybe, again, from a benefits and compensation overall, ask of the board for both this meeting and the board meeting, how about we frame this as we're gonna try this out for a year and come back, because there are a number of other things, even this time off during Christmas and stuff like that. How does it actually work? I like the idea of whether it's matching or we pay for time. They're both very good. I just wish we had thought of that before. We hadn't. So this is what we came up with. And this is what we had pitched to you before too.
Yeah, and it was funny, I kind of tried to explain it, but lots of other discussion went on. I was totally unclear in the whole thing.
I missed it earlier.
We're just totally supportive.
Yeah.
But then when it came and I read it, I said, I gotta print this out and talk much more specific. Now, Apple's limits have gotten crazy. They used to be $10,000 per employee.
Ooh.
And, no, wait a minute, it's now 20,000 employee
Lifetime or per year?
per year. Remember, it's an extremely wealthy company.
After tax. That's, right. I mean, that's a consideration, we don't.
Yeah, they don't have to pay taxes on it because it's a donation, from the company. But then they changed the employee rate to $50 an hour, and when you think about it, it's not unreasonable for somebody to do like 100 hours at their church
No?
or at their kids' baseball league, you know, all year round. And that would be at
On
5.
campaign?
Well, that wouldn't count because it's not a, but, you know, that would turn out to be like a $5,000 donation. And, you know, you just pick some random person who sits out here, they are probably not in a position to make a $5,000 donation to their church, but they will put in 100 hours. And the 5,000 will come. For Apple, it's a benefit to Apple, tax donation and all that kind of stuff. And for the person who put in the time, it's a benefit for them too.
Yeah.
They feel better in their church. Google does it, Apple does it, probably some other ones do it. 10,000, 20,000 may be excessive. But they started like $15 an hour and that lasted about 10 seconds. They
And
changed
less
it.
incentive for abuse if you're not
25.
paying that person, right?
Well, you're paying the organization.
Right, but there's just less incentive, especially with thousands of employees.
And it's
easier to track that.
And it's a complicated thing, you know, like if your church, oh, you're getting this donation because your employee donated 100 hours and you signed this form saying they did. Now there's a check that isn't even us.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm pitching something, I'm fine with what you have for right now, and I think this plus probably some of the other ones, you put the same caveat in front of, which is, this is what we want to try for this year, we're gonna reassess next year and see how everything comes out.
And the matching.
Stick this one in the back of your hat, if it's
Yeah.
not this year, maybe it's a future thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
So, if we're done, I can, okay, so I move 1P.
All right,
Second?
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, then that takes us to item number 2, which is the update to the benefits and compensation plan and salary range.
We're doing that before we do the current financials.
No comment.
Now I'm gonna open my.
All right.
So, to the members of the committee, I'm going to go through probably about half a dozen slides as an introduction and framing to this item before we get to the actual presentation. I would also welcome your feedback as to how we ought to be presenting this to the board at the board meeting next week. And the reason I'm going to go over kind of a broad framework is because obviously Don and I have been mired in some of the details. Of all the board members, the finance committee knows a lot more about the details than the rest of the board. And so I think we need to get out of the weeds as to why are we doing this when we present it. Because we've kind of chopped this up, we've done different kinds of, gone down different rabbit trails, so we want to bring this back to a more cohesive kind of presentation. So we thought we'd start off first with just talking about the timeline of the different times we have come in front of the Finance Committee and the board. And now we have in front of you this concept and funding to the Finance Committee.
Sure you don't want to put on that slide the one that says board approves vision statement or what? Board approves values,
Yeah,
which will be way up in front of me.
yep, we'll have that. I think we may have had an additional Finance Committee. I'll check. So, yeah, I think approving of the vision and even the budget priorities, I think that's where we,
Yeah, it all
Teed up.
works down.
yeah. So it's basically that the board has had a number of occasions to give us support in some cases the more higher level and in one case the more detailed level.
That's just the tracking.
That's a fact, yep.
It just seems better to start than with discussion with finance committee.
That's perfect, yeah. And I think in April we took budget priorities to the board where we had that vision.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So big picture, this graphic talks about, we have internal stakeholders, we have external stakeholders. We deal with different entities and different products that we are purchasing and selling. So from an internal stakeholder standpoint, we need to attract and retain top talent in order to provide competitively priced clean energy and basically deliver decarbonization programs also to our community. I have a couple of ways of framing this for the Finance Committee. The board and council, the board has seen a similar chart before about what our mission statement is. Essentially, our overarching SVCE decarbonization strategy deals with power supply, the built environment, and transportation or mobility. In each of these areas, there's a tremendous amount of innovation and complexity, and tying in many of these areas are energy efficiency and grid integration. So as we look to the future, we want to balance this business risk and affordability, and it's a constant balance. So when I think about the big risks and challenges ahead of us for SVCE, the PCIA and PG&E rates are very sensitive variables to our bottom line financial condition. SB 237 was introduced through a gut and amend bill in July. As of last Friday, it passed both houses in Sacramento. And that's going to lead to direct access load in our service territory. And our service territory is probably the most primed to take advantage of direct access, which means we need to set ourselves up now for customized solutions. I see ourselves really at a pivot point, similar to where we were 2.5 years ago when you were creating this agency. It's looking at, all right, in addition to decarbonization, how can we be competitive in this space? You know about clean power supply, the duck curve integration. So that's a complexity of the markets, and we also are looking at credit issues. Yes?
I think that's one of our big benefits. The duck curve integration, if I'm following you.
Yeah, so in terms of, so I brought this up as both risks and challenges, because from a risk side, power prices are extremely volatile during the time that the neck of the duck occurs. It's very volatile. And however, we do have solutions that we can look at to mitigate that risk. Higher expectations from customers, and then moving on to the next bullet, SVC is no longer a startup. When you created us, we had loans from our cities. Today we have, Mike, 50 million?
Cash?
Yes.
Yes, plus.
Okay,
plus.
50 million plus. So we are in a different financial position. And the labor market in Silicon Valley continues to be very tight. I see us in terms of making an investment in knowledge capital. It's actually in times of uncertainty, you want to make sure that you're attracting and retaining the kind of talent you need to manage these kinds of risks and also take advantage of opportunities.
So sorry.
Yes?
If we may come back to it, a couple of word tweakings on this slide later.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure I know why you're saying balance, complex business risk, and affordability. I'm not sure the affordability is the right word.
Okay, all right, we'll come back to that.
Talk about opportunities, you gotta just say fulfill our mission.
Okay.
We only started on our mission, right? We're getting power and delivering power. The next foot hasn't even really got there. How do we do programs, how do we do?
That's right.
So it's part of just fulfilling our mission.
All right. Yep.
So we can come back to that.
Will do. So, balancing business risk and achieving our mission. So overall, when I think about workforce policy and the benefits and compensation that we're proposing to you today, it positions SVCE to be competitive in attracting and retaining employees. So it balances risk, and if recommendations are approved, it's also affordable. So big picture, personal costs are approximately 2% of operating revenues. With the proposal we're making, including deferred compensation, because one of the things that the board asks is, all right, fine, all these things, $100 here, $50, what's the bottom line? And so the bottom line is, including deferred compensation, which you already approved when we started, the 10% match, total benefits, including healthcare, everything that we are proposing today, are approximately 25% of total personnel costs. We did a survey which we don't have here, but we do have the data. We compared ourselves to the market basket, right? So we had the 3 utilities of NCPA, Palo Alto, Santa Clara. We have 2 CCAs, BCE and MCE, and we have 2 cities, Sunnyvale and Mountain View. If you compare to the cities are, I think, in the high 40s.
40%.
We pay 25% just our PERS liability.
Right,
Yeah,
that's right.
All the cities have a weird
So
thing.
today,
plus CalPERS.
it's going up from, I think, about 22% to 25 is what our pitch is. So depending on how you work the numbers, this is the bottom line.
I actually think that's the most significant line.
Okay. So that's why we wanted to give you the end before we start in 2. And we will repeat this at one of the last slides too.
Yeah, we're not moving up that much.
Yeah. And from a competitive standpoint, I think we're happy with a proposal. I think it will get us to be, a good employer in the CCA space. The combination of the benefits and the compensation changes you made, I think we'll be pretty good. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tom.
Garish, good afternoon, members of the committee. So we'll get into some of the higher level overview of where we're proposing on benefits, with the goal that we'll take this to the board in September, then move into an implementation phase and basically get this off the agenda for the board for the rest of the year. So just as an overall high objective when we started this conversation several months ago, was to not only look at the core benefits, medical, dental, compensation, paid time off, but also look at other benefits that make this the best place to work, such as transportation, dependent care, volunteer time, and some of these have been addressed on the consent calendar already.
So dependent care, is that what is that?
Childcare, retention.
Childcare, which right now is employee funded through an FSA, which we didn't have prior to July 1st.
Yes, and we're not providing dependent care.
No, but we're gonna get into that.
You might want to just change those words.
Okay.
Because it was a fad in the valley 20, 25 years ago. Every company was setting up a daycare center.
Oh, okay, I thought what you're saying.
And we have the tax advantage dependent care. I don't know how you say it, but don't make it sound like we're doing
Yes.
nursery schools.
Yep.
How about a Montessori school?
Yeah.
So the current state of benefits, we have currently HR to Go is our insurance broker. They use CalChoice for the benefit options. And then we have a separate consultant for onboarding. I have another consultant that handles the payroll. So I think move over to the right, future is relook at that. That's kind of a bare bones approach with HR to Go. There's some improvements we can make with that, or review other service providers. Speaking with Mike and his firm, maybe there's payroll improvements we can do to streamline the process. So we'll be relooking at that. Second bullet down, so currently we're at $1,000 employee only for medical premiums. Does not include vision or enhanced dental. So one of the improvements we want to bring to the board next week would be increased SVCE contributions to health and provide that flexibility. And so in this case, one of the most immediate changes would be to, keep the $1,000 as is for September board meeting, but at least include it for vision, as well as include your dependents on it. With the dependents, just one caveat there, is we can't make that change happen until the new benefits year, but the vision and the enhanced dental we can. And then we just brought up about the FSA, and that's been effective July 1st. So what we're looking at is a way to improve the benefits that we're offering, but also make it controlling cost, and also giving the employee an incentive to manage the healthcare as best as they can. So we'll get into recommendations. So effective for October 1st, upon approval of the September board meeting, would be will handle the time off enhancements. And so on the consent calendar, which was approved earlier, we have a management leave, that's 40 hours for non-exempt employees, or I'm sorry, for exempt employees. Volunteer time, up to 40 hours, and then days off between Christmas Eve and New Year's, which comes out to about 32 to 40 hours. So essentially, right now, we're at 4 weeks of PTO. Excluding the volunteer time, we've already increased that by 50% with the management leave, as well as the time off at the end of the year.
So, may
Yes.
I, sorry to interrupt. So, this presentation to the board has certain things to be approved going forward. Am I missing something or just confused? Holding the ladder. Things that are in the consent calendar. We're doing chickens and.
Yep.
So, I mean,
You just suck all that out and put it here.
Yeah,
well, I would suggest that you try and simplify it and call it 2 consent calendars, you know, however you could do it. If the board goes for this, then you just take those items and,
But then you have to do this presentation before the consent calendar.
no, I'm actually saying, I'm gonna call it the mundane consent calendar. And then do this
Just put everything in this presentation that goes with it, and
Well,
then we
we're
just vote
saying
on
the
it.
same thing,
We can just pull everything out of that
yeah, because
and say that the finance committee looked at it piece by piece, but I think put everything in here. We're looking at
It's
one recommendation, the omnibus.
Yes.
yeah, now, people will.
But thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
That's a,
and then the other change we'll have in here is a policy change, as we just talked about, where we'll contribute to the vision beginning October 1st, as well as dental coverage, and then include family coverage, but that won't be effective till February 1st. Other,
You're keeping the same cap.
you got it for this.
Put parentheses, same cap right after the word coverage.
Okay.
Just because everybody could say, well, how much is that gonna cost us? And you'd be
Yeah.
saying, we're keeping the same cap.
That's the feedback we need. Okay. And then other improvements to benefits that we're not going to bring to the board would be performance evaluations, which we're working on that in-house and what those core values are going to be. And then part of the budget for the next fiscal year would be including $10,000 for the employee goodwill. So continuing with recommendations. So we're trying to find a way to do the self-directed plan, provide the maximum benefits, at the same time control cost, and come up with a hybrid approach where we'll, including the FSA program, look at the health retirement account or HRA program for medical, as well as still managing the traditional benefits with $1,000 for the premium. So what we would look at here would be employer funding into an HRA medical that would handle incremental to the $1,000 that folks already get, would be to cover the typical medical expenses there that is not covered, that they would go over on the $1,000 without this. Also, there would be the FSA medical that would handle subsidize expand on the HRA medical, but also would include other items such as transportation, parking at or near work, dependent care expenses, and right now the current contribution limit per person is $2,650. That'll probably change at the beginning of next year. So we looked at this from an HRA, FSA, as well as keeping the $1,000 premium that we currently have, to say, all right, how can we expand benefits and pay for this, meanwhile control costs. So this is our recommendation for funding. We would keep the $1,000 monthly in there. However, we would then contribute $500 per month towards an HRA. Now the HRA is interesting in that if folks do not spend it, they can carry that balance over indefinitely. So there's a retain component of this. The other plus of this option would be, okay, well, if I may be a little more cost conscious on what I want to spend here, because then I can keep a higher balance, carry over to, or use that balance for something else. So there's a cost conscious component of this, as well as a retaining component of this. FSA, we have some employees right now in the program, and they're deducting a certain amount of their check. Right now, what we're proposing is $200 per month towards the FSA. Some of us might use that for transportation, others would use it for dependent care, so on and so forth. And,
So
yeah,
I'm
please.
slightly confused on the section 125 stuff, because I thought that they had to be broken out. So FHA for healthcare, FHA for dependent care with a separate account?
No, so we've worked with our group called Task, which is what we have the FSA with.
So they think that we can integrate all these functions into one.
That's what they're so far telling us. That's going to be part of the implementation.
Yeah, I think
plan.
there's a detail there that I'm confused at, because I've always seen them broken out. And my wife used to administer one of these for 6 years for a city, and they were always broken out. But I didn't know if that was really the rule, so for sure. And then my second question on it is more pragmatic. You know, since that's a use it or lose it bucket, it makes me worried to put our money into a use it or lose it, because each individual's calculus is going to be different on how much they need for.
So the HRA, they would keep everything in there.
That one I'm good
Unless
with.
they leave.
I'm
On the
super
FSA,
excited.
you're correct. So if we put 2,400 in and they don't use any of it, that 2,400 comes back to us.
Does it actually come
Yes.
back to us?
Yes,
It comes
it
back
does.
to the employer, not
Yeah.
to the employee.
So even if the employee puts the money in, it goes back to the employer?
No, so the employee, the thing is though, if the cap's at 2,650,
There's only a
we're putting-
little bit left. but-
correct.
Yeah, because I'm used to the use it or lose it.
Yes,
But lose it doesn't mean that we are losing it.
correct, right.
Okay, so that makes me much more comfortable with putting money into that, given the uncertainty.
And this also, from the talk we've had over the last several months, the survey results, etc., this is where the self-directed piece kind of gets in.
There's a lot of options on that.
A lot of options.
Yep.
Transportation, someone else wants to use it for medical premiums.
Dependent
This gives
care.
a lot more flexibility. We can change the contribution limits only once a year. Right now, we're proposing 500 for HRA, 200 for FSA. So similarly, we were looking at this, we thought, let's run it for a year and see what works out. At the end of the year, we'll survey our employees again. They're like, what do you think? You want to change, make some changes? Go back.
Is there an option, if you don't use your FSA money, to have it go into your HRA?
No, there's not an option for that. We asked that question as well.
That's, and with the parking and transportation, the way it sounds like that, somehow the 2,650 is tied to that, but this, just independent, you can reimburse, so to speak, or pay for parking passes, et cetera, up to $230, $240 a month, but that's independent of the FSA, right? That's under the 125.
That would be the FSA other piece of it, and how, and this is gonna be part of the devil's in the details and how this is administered, but from an overall 20,000 foot level, what they've told us so far is, we've got some administrative hurdles on this, but whatever it is, 2,400 employer funded, and we can find a way to pay for these certain type of.
Make it do all of these things that are on this chart.
Right.
I've never heard of one, I've never seen of one, but if we got somebody who knows how to do it, I think this is super great.
And the dependent typically has it's a separate annual limit, right?
Yes, 5,000, right?
5,000, okay.
So in that case, if somebody would use the 2,400 simply for the dependent, then they could put the 3,600 in themselves, but we're capped at 2,400.
Go ahead, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so side comment, future thought. In the old days, they used to have, as an employee, we used to be able to roll over our benefits and excess money if someone became seriously ill or needed vacation or sick time and anything like that. Has anybody looked at sharing any of those benefits?
Like a sick pool or,
Maybe you just.
no, we No, it's,
We don't have that.
Okay, just as a question, the reason I mention it is because you're saying the money rolls over, the 500 rolls over. So it could add up to quite a bit of money.
But that's like a 401K account. That's an employee's account.
And employees donate their time or money to another employee.
It's not their time or their money till it's there. This is legally theirs once we put the money in.
go ahead.
Yes and no.
Yeah. it's
It
not
is
for-
theirs as long as they're employed with us,
Yeah,
The HRA?
the HRA. They don't get to take it with them.
So this is not an HSA?
No.
no.
Okay, never mind. I take that
When
back.
they
Thank you.
terminate, the money comes back to us, whatever's in there.
But it is theirs.
2
While they're
years,
employed.
correct.
Yeah.
The flexibility compared to an FSA is, just say, I have bad knees, and I know I'm gonna have to have a knee replacement in 3 years. I'm not gonna touch my HRA and maybe save up for paying for whatever associated with that knee surgery. Because it's gonna be a big dollar amount. It just gives people more flexibility. However, if I leave in 2 years, I lose that money. I just have to, Don gets it.
Don doesn't
So, you may find it helpful to have a definition page.
Okay.
Yeah, and there probably may be others who know what an HSA is, who may get confused by HRA, and we're talking the same thing. But they're definitely not, an HSA is yours. It goes with you
Right,
forever.
that's, I know what you're talking
Just a little background sheet,
Okay.
footnote or whatever. And I have to say, someone else mentioned, this sounds like an accounting nightmare.
about.
This is
Mike?
task, right?
Yeah, actually, here's the nice thing about this task, is the one that would be our bookkeeper on this. And so far, all the conversations have been, this is gonna be pretty seamless. We'll see how it goes, but
And Dave will do the HRA first,
yes,
and all with a debit card.
yes.
So you basically load up the debit card and,
Yeah, I've seen that done, and
Yeah.
that's very successful. I'm just trying to figure out,
As long as it's not inside here.
yeah, I'm just don't want us to take on an accounting hassle.
As of right now, most of that administrative burden is gonna be with task.
I know, but we're paying them.
That's right.
So I don't want their charges to go up.
And to integrate with, they need to talk with HR Go, whoever the payroll provider is.
Right,
As long
that's
as
part of the implementation.
Are showing up on the payroll.
Absolutely.
and one of the first slides that Don showed was current state and future state. We're taking a look at our service providers in terms of, today we have recruiting.
In which we did. I
Yeah.
mean, we all knew, the executive board at the time knew what we were doing and why we
Right.
did it. I don't think anybody has a problem with the fact that you might change based on.
And integrating, there are some folks who provide multiple services under one roof.
But I would, my comment simply is,
Yeah.
it sounds like a nightmare of this account, that account, this charge, that charge, you know. You're allowing flexibility within, and there's so much flexibility within. So it's just an observation at this point. But, okay, and then the next slide?
Before you go to the
Sure.
next slide, did you look at an HSA? And
Do we offer an HSA?
We do not,
Does
and
the parent
mainly because of
provide-
the premiums,
We chose
you have to
that.
have a very high
High deductible.
Has to be a high
deductible,
deductible
and we don't
plan.
have.
okay, just thought it might be, in case somebody says, why aren't we looking at an HSA?
They should.
I think we'll go with a couple of slides right up front with just define FSA, HRA, and then we'll say, here's what an HSA is, and here's why we didn't choose it.
Those are hard because you have to have enough people to be in the plan.
Yeah.
We have so few employees, how many different medical plans can you even offer?
We have an HSA, there's only 12 people in our company though.
Yeah, those are
Do you
common,
have-
those are common enough for small plans,
Yeah.
because they're less robust.
Uh,
Smaller
uh,
companies,
they're cheaper,
less-
yeah.
I'll say the reason that people like ours is because as a financial company, our HSA actually allows you to invest the money. And so these guys all opted for it. You pay $100 and you're allowed to buy stocks with it.
Well,
And
the
so
H-
these guys are building up their HSAs by just investing in FANG.
Well, the HSA is, it's the best thing in the world because it can be used not just for health, You can actually use it for
They use it for
retirement
everything
too.
too.
It's tax-free in and tax-free out. It's the only thing that does
But
that.
it takes a little bit of understanding.
Oh,
You have to
employees
manage.
don't get it.
Yeah.
Because you have to, it's a high deductible plan, so the first thing you have to do is get enough money saved up to cover that high deductible if you do break your leg. And, you know, yeah. I'm a fan of those too, it just,
Yeah,
but okay, if they're easy for small businesses, why are they not easy for us? Because I was led to believe it was because we had so few participants and we couldn't have, you had to offer a low deductible and high
Yeah, it's a
deductible
very high
plans.
deductible. That was our limitation.
It's high deductible, which, yeah, you're going, you're co-paying, you're just paying every time you go to the doctor, maybe, you know, $50, $80, whatever. With a lot of these, I don't know what the
Well,
insurance policy is like.
there's the
but-
Ours is
required,
not eligible.
Yeah.
No, it's not even, you don't even have a choice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep,
why are we not eligible?
because our deductibles aren't high enough.
No, but
It's a more of a premium plan that's all.
okay, I think here's what it is. In a lot of places, there's more than one medical plan that the people can choose. And there's like the low deductible plan, which is your $10 copay, and then there's your high deductible plan, which until you spend your $6,000 per family, it's all out of your pocket.
Right.
But we don't offer two health plans, we only offer one health plan, right? There's no health choice.
No, through CalTrice, they have a few carriers or plans you can go to, but none of them are a deductible.
None of them are H.
Yep.
That's fine, but
That's good.
there's gonna be others up there, Burton and others who know the details and know why this is so powerful when they start going down that rabbit hole. We just have to explain we don't offer the health plan and we're not in a position to.
Okay.
So incrementally, we're looking at 700 per month. If I take that times 25 employees, it's about 800,000 impact to the budget. Certainly affordable, and it makes us, as Chris mentioned earlier, much more competitive.
So my question was, how do the two slides relate? So I'm just being futzy visually.
Yeah.
You've got 3 vertical columns here, and they become 3 horizontal columns on the next page.
We'll redo this set, I think, based on the questions you're asking. I think first we'll define FSA and HRA, and then also talk about HSA and why
it's
that's
so
not
long.
applicable.
Right.
And I think then we can combine it into,
I
can
think
see
it could
a
be
visual?
simpler, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
and so we'll do that.
Mhm.
We'll change these 2 slides.
Okay.
So upon approval next week, we would then ask for the board to delegate to the CEO the implementation of this, meaning that we would not bring this back to the board every month for the rest of the year. We'll engage in communications with the employees. Open enrollment would be through next January, and then we look to have in place February 1st, these benefits. Okay, so some we can do immediately, such as the time off, the vision and enhanced dental, and then the rest of these benefits would be for February 1st.
I think you let them add to that bullet is all the ones that were in the consent.
There's all the no-cost ones, there's also the ones that we've put in place already since we started this
Yes.
process.
Yes.
And I don't know where you get the comprehensive view, but someplace there's gotta be some sort of slide or pictorial that, even if it's got small prints, that we went from this to this. You guys did a lot of stuff that cost nothing. And, you know, or
It
cost
is.
time, I mean,
Yeah, but it's important to emphasize that, yeah.
Okay.
we didn't get our YMCA memberships, but
Couldn't get those covered, actually.
Yeah, no, I have a call to the person, your person was very responsive.
our city employees complained they didn't have a health center. And our city manager went down to the
I
Y
agree too,
and
yeah,
got
I
this
remember.
crazy deal. And now we've got like 25 employees, they're not even using our Y, they're using the ones at home, because once you're in the Y, you're in all Ys.
Yeah.
So, we made a whole bunch of happy employees, and it only cost the city like 20 grand, it's very weird.
Yeah. For how many employees?
We have about 60 employees. But
That's payroll tax fraud if you're not reporting those wages.
we'll probably cheapen it some. I don't know how to do that, I'll report it.
Do have a phase two, what we call other benefits. This would be the one-off policies that wouldn't be thrown into the enrollment period of next January, such as we still want to look at educational experience, assistance, electrical vehicle rebate. I don't know what that number is, and it would probably be once every 3 years. That's something that we'll bring to the board, most likely in the mid-year budget process.
Have we established the free electricity yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the one station, you're gonna want money for.
We got
more.
2 now.
Got you.
Yep. Those
And
up and running.
you adopted a policy last
Back
board
in
meeting.
June or July.
Yeah.
So, unconfusing things, do we really need this information now?
No. Not necessarily. It's
I
more
just-
just a heads up that, so here's the thing, right? There was maybe a little bit of fatigue of how many times we've come up, so that's why we want to do an omnibus, get it all done. At the same time, if we are gonna come back later, I don't think we wanna have the post, wait a sec, I thought we were all done. Why are you coming back with something else?
Then put this up at the very beginning where you say, here's the area we're covering, and here's some things that,
We're not
which are
covering
not part of this one,
Okay.
they may happen in the future.
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
this is
good,
the
good.
omnibus, this is telling you, that's really the first 3 sides.
Because,
This,
yeah, this works backwards, because
Yep.
you fatigue us through the whole discussion, and everybody's doing the math, is
And
this
then we're
good?
throwing this at.
And then it's like, finally, everybody's kind of
And
like,
one more
okay,
thing.
I agree, and then you're gonna say, oh, and we're coming back for more.
Yeah.
I think you're better off saying, there's some other things that we can't do right now that we're considering, but they're for a future date. Drag us through, let us all fatigue out.
Very good.
They don't end here.
Well, this is not to fatigue you some more, but this is the end of the benefits, now we get into
can we
compensation.
back up for a second?
Yeah.
Go all the way to the very beginning slide, and my comment there, keep going forward, there. The balancing complex business risk and affordability.
I think we're changing it to and fulfilling our mission.
Just the whole thing?
Yeah, balancing business risk.
I heard the comment, but I didn't realize that's what we were
So
doing.
I'm, no, I'm tossing that out
Yeah,
as instead of affordability.
That's just some, yeah, this was too much. So, that's fine.
Open to any suggestions on it.
No,
Right,
no,
yeah.
no, I
Was it
like
meant to
it.
be affordable rates?
No,
Affordable-
yeah, affordable,
affordable
yes, affordable rates.
Just as the overall?
As an overall kind of deal, it's because those are some of the comments we got back from the board, is like, are the benefits and compensation you're proposing, are these affordable?
Yes, so sorry, backing up. Are you thinking of changing that first header to say,
The title,
yeah,
yes, the title would be balancing complex business risks and fulfilling our mission.
Why don't you
I
even
would-
simplify it even more,
Thank you.
balancing risk and mission.
Okay,
much better, much better.
going once,
It's all good by me.
done.
Any more questions on the benefits side before we go to compensation? So we teed this up with the board, either, I think it was July's board meeting with broadbanding, that was part of the budget presentation. So what you'll see is an organizational chart that's gonna be proposed that has more boxes than FTEs that would be funded. And we're also encouraging in this org chart horizontal broadbanding as well. So not just vertically within a work group, but also horizontally so that account services and programs, for instance, would be working together. So this is our org chart for next fiscal year. I have a few tweaks on here as far as titles go, but I'll just start off with the left, move to the right, with just the changes. So under finance group, maximum would be 5 FTEs. Change would be adding an administrative services manager. You may recall we used to have a finance manager box in there. We have Mike with us, we gave that box up to fund the programs area, but thought we'd put a box back in to help with finance HR issues and backup. And then also we had an IT specialist. Like to eliminate that position and create a management analyst, as that person does a lot more than just infrastructure for IT. And then the admin assistant and analyst are the same. And then we get into the programs, or the customer service group.
So, excuse
Yes.
me, may I?
Yes.
So, we've been through all of this.
This is updated since.
This is updated in that we didn't have the broadband, so maybe I'll just focus on the
So what's the next slide?
next slide would be the,
All right, okay, so go ahead back to the boxes.
So-
Again, this is heavy fatigue time, because we have been through several conversations on this. And maybe it's more fatigue for us because we've been hearing it twice.
Yeah.
But what you might do is just highlight the boxes that have changed.
Okay.
Don't explain, this is just my thinking. Just say, pretty consistent with where we were the last time, we are broadbanding, we have shifted our positions. Here are the final tweaks going forward for next year,
Put those boxes in a different color or something.
just something.
yeah, because we talked about the concept of broadband,
Yeah,
but we
so
actually
you-
didn't have the
yeah.
boxes in there, so
That's
that's
fine.
perfect.
Fine.
So just so you know, your packet's gonna be pretty thick,
Yeah,
because every one of these boxes is,
has a job description.
that's exactly right. And the table looks pretty complex, because every one of these JDs have a min and max.
So again, might there be a before and an after?
For all those documents?
No, just for the
Just for
org
the
chart.
org chart.
Sure.
So it might confuse people more.
I think it's a good idea.
If you
I-
can find a very easy visual way to do it, it would be fine.
Well, you
I'm
have
not
the
even-
old chart, right?
I'm not even saying in the slide presentation, but in the packet.
Oh.
The packet can have more backup than the slide presentation. Ideally, the slide presentation should not be a literal,
Page for
It doesn't
page.
have to be,
it
yeah.
doesn't have to be.
I get it, find a way to do the changes, because there aren't that many changes.
Okay.
And, describe it as, here's the tweaks for 2019, or however you say it, 18-19 tweaks.
Yeah.
And there are no financial changes, impacts of this.
There was an upgrade of a
In addition-
IT to
The
a,
upgrades in salary.
yeah,
Sorry,
because we.
so we have two separate questions.
And there are 4 new FTEs.
Haven't we covered all of that?
Yes. So we teed it up twice, so once
Yeah.
when,
So I'm saying, don't tee it up again,
okay.
just
Show-
say,
Show it.
Oh,
as-
no changes from the last time we talked to you.
Here's the answer,
Yes.
again.
Okay, we were talking more, yeah, all right.
that's what I'm, what are you thinking?
It's one of those things, does everybody remember, this
That's
is what
the
we
point.
saw and all of that?
Yeah.
But I do think there's a way to minimize the discussion of, this was discussed before, here are the 3 changes that we talked about before.
We can give you more detail if you have questions.
There's 3
but-
boxes
right.
listed, and then you go on to the
Right,
next
and
slide.
there's no cost changes, there's no this changes, there's no that changes.
What do you think about summarizing some of that right up front?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Basically say, this whole presentation, you've seen before, except for these things. So we can frame the whole thing, there's benefits, compensation, here are the changes, here are the things we did look at. So it's almost right up front, tell them that, and then we go through.
is this 2 separate agenda items when it gets to the agenda? You're gonna put the compensation one in with the benefits one
Yes.
all together? Okay,
And then you
fine.
have,
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I think you should set it up with that timeline at the front is the perfect time to put in a slide after that that says, since you've been through this, we're really just showing you the final answers.
so would you suggest, okay,
Way close. I don't know where
cut
it
down the
falls.
number of slides too?
But someplace, the slides never seem okay, but
Okay.
someplace way up at the top before you start into benefits, there's something that says, you've seen it all. We're filling in the final details in these areas. And this is not meant to redo the entire discussion. This has been a progressive discussion, and we're now to step 9 of 10. I think we got 2 more steps left. Sure seems like it goes in the timeline, but maybe it goes someplace else in those first slides. And then some of these ones, this one, you don't have to get into giant detail. It's just like you've seen this one before and now.
Okay. And I'm gonna ask one other thing. Sometimes we have done something where in the agenda packet, rather than putting in the job descriptions, we put a link and say, here's where they are.
Those are not good, because then technically the agenda packet has to stay real, so the links have to stay good, because that's material to the discussion.
Oh, interesting, because we do it quite a bit.
Yeah, when somebody complains in 10 years that you've lost all your records and somebody has to go update your website to make all these deep links work again.
Okay.
Granicus makes that easy for you to do though. I don't think we have,
If everything gets into Granicus, it stays there, but if you have your agenda in Granicus and you link to outside Granicus,
Right.
all bets are.
yeah.
Our city just upgraded websites, and they promised me no URLs would be broken, and I found like 20 in the first 5 minutes, and they were like, oh,
Oh,
you
yeah.
meant those URLs.
Yeah.
And the worst one was we put QR codes on park signs, and all of those were broken too.
Oh,
Jeez.
oh.
So
I wish I didn't.
they had to fix a lot for me.
Yeah.
Good. Well, anyway, I was just
It's
trying to
fine.
simplify things.
You know, if the packet's got 600 pages in it,
Okay.
that's okay. We all
Okay.
look at the top, the links in the thing take us to the
Okay.
subsections.
I wish you chose to.
Just don't print it.
Yes, exactly.
Who gets them printed? I think somebody brings it up with their
They're in the
camera.
public.
You have to bring a
You have to
printed
bring one
copy
for the public.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just all pretend we're county supervisors for the week.
Who's gonna read it and highlight it and tab it for you though?
Yeah.
So just to wrap up the compensation conversation, so we had the comp study that we presented at the July FNA committee. Really don't have any material changes from that. We do propose looking at a CPI Urban Bay Area index to increase the min and the maxes of all positions by 3.4%. Just to put that in perspective, Monterey's changing theirs to 4%. Marin's about 3.5%, so we're not out of line with other CCAs.
So we talked about this at the last board meeting.
And we did.
And
That's
that'll
correct.
happen every year.
Correct.
So the last line really means the salary survey will happen every other year.
Yeah, that's every 2 years. Yeah, and the COLA would be every year. Right. And this would just be a table of, I'm not gonna go through all these line items, but the table of what the index
Adjustments.
would be by the, CPI and then any changes from the comp study.
There's
Just point out, we didn't have very many changes in the comp study.
Yeah, the comp study doesn't set everybody's salary, it sets everybody's range. The
Correct.
salary is administered separate from that. So you probably need to make that so people don't say, oh, you're suddenly raising somebody's salary a whole bunch. No, we're raising the range to match what the market is, and their salary will progress to get into that.
Is
Change the target.
is that the CPI increase, is that just 3.4 forever until you change it?
No, it's for
Because
this
that's
year.
based on the current CPI, or is it always going to be?
No,
So it's gonna be updated every summer, and so this time next year, we'd be looking at that index, and it might be a different number.
Did they release the,
I've got it from first half of the
and that's
year.
what 3.4 is?
Yeah. And so next steps, just to wrap this all up, would be approve the salary ranges, the benefits funding through the budget process at the board meeting. Then Rish and I will be working on the implementation and employee communications. And then February 1st, new benefits in place.
So this is the roadmap. I would use a similar graphic on the beginning, whatever you choose to do it.
The beginning one looked good because there's so many dates.
Yeah.
This one, I agree, they should be the same.
Okay.
And the first one worked because you've got all those dates and we asked you to add
How
some
we
more
got
at the
here.
beginning.
And where
And
we
then
going?
you just,
Yeah.
you know, this is the conclusion.
That's
As a
great.
result of these decisions, the packet will be this, blah, 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 blah.
You have all those on this slide too, but make them the same slide.
Yeah, that's perfect, yeah.
You could even end with the same slide and say, just to remind
That's
you,
right,
here's the
yeah,
that's
end.
perfect, perfect.
So probably I'll add a slide to say recommendations to include approval of the policies that we're gonna bring to you rather than on consent. This would
Yeah,
be
you,
where we
you wanna have
propose.
them, you wanna have the motion. Sometimes in this
Yes.
particular case, it would be really nice to have the motion.
Write high in the staff report, so when we look at it, we can read it on.
Okay.
And have a slide that says,
I move the staff report, it's the best motion. Some councils are much more formal than that. Move resolution 4972
Just have our city attorney read them all, that way we know they're done right.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
all right.
so what do you need from us?
You've given us feedback, I think we're gonna incorporate that. And so write the staff report now, and make those changes, I think we've got what we need.
Okay.
It says you need an action.
Yeah, I think the action is, do you recommend that we
Okay,
make
so
these
moved.
recommendations to the
Second.
council?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go. All right. Okay.
Well done. High five.
Item 3, and our last item,
No.
save the best for last. 2018, 2019 operating.
You have a closed session after this.
Oh, yes, we have a closed session. I mean, our last official item. And can I take a 2-minute break?
Yes.
Run to the restroom?
You expecting this one to go long?
Nah, but
I gotta.
Say,
Come back to that. Oh, yeah.
The discussion. I think
You set it up with the budget, and then I think the closed session, or we want to pitch makes a little more sense, because they're gonna see all the
Okay.
reasons why.
All right.
you know,
That would be my reason.
we kind of are acclimating to thinking how it fits together, how it fits in the overall scheme, how we're not really a city, right? And I can see people going, wait, no, I don't get this, I don't get this.
I know, but it's getting better, I thought.
Okay.
Always close.
Yeah.
But that's why we give our comments, is to try and make sure it's going
It
to
is.
line up more smoothly with the board's
That
personality.
is exactly correct. I'm worried about the elections.
Yeah.
There'll be a big change next year.
Of those that are on the board, who's
That was more fun, set on, right?
Let's just make it our own.
Rob Rennie, myself,
I think this will make
Dan,
Yeah.
and Eric.
Describe it.
So, you have a definition slide, then I don't
we lose our
remember that.
supervisor?
We lose our supervisor?
Yeah, because he's on.
Thank you.
No,
One way of doing it is having.
but it can rotate,
different things, so like
Gilroy,
description, program,
Morgan Hill,
eyeglass,
Steve Stain.
Okay, so it is
Let's say
Yeah.
HRA.
We'll double check with Grish. that
Yeah.
He's got
So that's-
his
and then
building
You're
orientation
gonna have a bunch more.
workshop scheduled for,
It has to be,
January.
actually, yeah.
has to be after all the cities have
Which I
appointed.
think we said was
This
February
is
now.
one thing, they get to see the whole deal,
Yeah. no, that makes
Los
sense.
Gatos does it
Great.
November.
and then maybe the same slide.
Yeah, but that one is always weird to
And
me,
just
because
say,
how can you appoint before the
well,
elections, you don't know what the
200
election's gonna be.
Here, these are
We
one
do it
a
as
month.
soon as the election's over.
That's what we do.
The first call is the mayor asks everybody to give her the
Anyway,
recommendations,
so
or here's the
summer, I think
recommendations, and then in December we approve it.
Yeah, it's just a
We
visual.
do that in
Yep.
December. This
Now,
year
what
it has
do
to
you
be a
propose,
special
Matt?
meeting December 12th because the first meeting in December is like December 4th, which is another 30 days. So you have to have a special meeting.
We do 2 meetings in December, so. and
We did July and
we
we did
do
May. What's last?
And then some other groups change in January.
We did May.
July.
But we have to have that, we have to get people on
Yeah.
board with what
Oh,
we're
did
doing.
June and July.
Oh, you did
July.
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 Ah,
So
forgot
I
about
mean, Marcia
So,
Grove.
and, so let's have that. So each of those, let's add it
Yeah.
here.
getting
And I
it.
think if you
Yeah,
look
what was
back
good about
to
Marcia is she's a very
budget
calm,
priorities.
person.
Yeah, we did that back in,
That's what we're doing it wrong.
April.
And right now, what's going on in our city, I think it's going on
the
in
assessment. I
politics
said
are about
25 employees.
how everything's
Okay,
terrible.
that's right.
We've got to do something.
All right, thank you.
Go back to that.
That's why
do
we're
the
running in
roadmap.
my city.
What the population is.
Before we can sit around for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I forgot about the gym.
I don't know who's running over your city.
We have 4 pretty solid people and one complainer. So it's not bad in that sense.
One solid.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all back.
Sir?
All back. Item number 3.
Right, so this is where we cover all the, how we're gonna pay for what we just pitched to you. Thanks.
Raising prices.
Well,
Okay, so let's just give you an overview again of the calendar. Talked a lot about budget, going back to April with budget priorities. And we'll present, rather than go into a line item and explanation of all the changes between the mid-year and this budget, which we've done at the board meeting, we'll just focus on what the real changes that happened from June or July and what those risks are. So,
if I could just jump right into the fire, it's
There
just
you go.
go straight into the,
this is a pretty hot fire. So July 2018, we were looking at no changes to the PCIA, no changes to rates. We knew that was wrong, but we just didn't know where those were going to go at the time with the information that we had. And we were looking at close to $58 million net surplus. Currently, we've got the update to the PCIA, and we'll talk about that more in a moment, but that's been a huge impact to revenues as well as where we think rates might be from the latest filing from PG&E. And we're looking at still a healthy surplus, but about a $28.9 million decrease.
you're not gonna survive this
No,
slide like
no,
that.
That's more for this group, but
You need to go just hardcore finance guy on this,
Okay.
right? Everybody freaks out about the numbers, and to see this gigantic change, which is a percentage, is actually substantial but not ginormous. You need to be able to say, we had forecast 286. That is down 10 million because of PCIA changes, this much because of this much because of that. If you don't like drop the exact numbers to account for the $26 million drop in revenue, everybody's gonna ask you anyway. So you just might as well go hardcore. This got to that because of these 4 changes. And the power supply got from this to that because of this change. And other operating expenses, it's $1 million.
So I would go one step further, which is we projected having reserves of this amount by this date. This impacts our reserves.
Well, that's the next slide.
Well, okay, it's not in the next slide.
It isn't. But just to get through this slide, you're gonna have to explain the deltas between column A and column B for each line item. And then I don't know if I would put that giant decrease
Decrease.
in net surplus, because
I wouldn't even put that in, whole line.
that focuses you just on that we have a huge problem, and now you've got 12 troubleshooters that are real time. And so just, you're gonna have to just go through it like you're the finance guy with all the details of the numbers and say, but we're end with this is still a positive situation, things didn't come out the way we wanted, but we're still in a positive situation. And then you can go right into Liz's, here's our new projection for our reserves, which we need to do banding anyways.
Yeah, I mean, does that make sense to you?
it does.
You gotta get rid of the anxiety really fast.
I've seen this laid out before where this happens, where it's often best to frame the few different scenarios. I don't know how many scenarios you had in the first one, but you might have your 3 or 4 scenarios which you know might not come into play.
Mhm.
PG&E price X, PCIA X, option, scenario 1, 2, 3, 4. We're looking at B right now. Not the worst that could have happened, not as good as what we wanted, no change. We're looking at B. And that way you frame,
That's very nice.
that way you
That's
frame what
very
you're looking
nice.
at.
So you could blow the whole thing up that way too. But there has to be in everybody's brain a way to explain how revenue is not 286 anymore, it's 260.
And that it's not bad.
And it's
And
not
that's-
bad.
And that's not one of the out of the blue scenarios, it was
Perfect.
one of the.
Yeah, that's great, that's an excellent approach, because then you can then go, okay, oh, okay, we're here, and that's what this means.
Yeah, I mean, I was like trying to turn the page going, wait a minute, where did the,
And where's the next
I
part?
know.
We all are saying the same thing.
Right. Okay, let's repeat that. So,
then people just start making up numbers.
And people make value judgments on you, we're down this much. Boy, we're one small mistake away from going negative.
mhm.
And frankly, that gets rid of this slide.
Yes, this slide we go.
Actually, I got a couple slides, probably.
Yep, great.
So, and again, we talked about the rates.
See, I think all of that can go away if you do the three scenarios.
Right. So here's where we're focusing.
These are in fact your scenarios.
Yes.
Right.
This slide is gonna cause this thing is gonna cause a lot of heartburn. And I think there has to be a way to say, this is normal within this business.
Mhm.
We are within the expected operating band. And it is less rosy than all of you were counting on, but this is still okay.
I would be so bold as to say it is completely within the range that staff has been tracking.
Yeah.
Just,
I mean, I remember us being told that something like this could happen.
This isn't, the something
Yeah.
could happen is way worse than this.
right,
And those numbers we went through all of that stuff. The
Okay.
problem is everybody's gonna respond to it is, we
Mhm.
just cut our reserves in half, the world's coming to an end.
well, if you looked at the first slide, that's what you'd say.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Exactly.
yeah. It's actually the worst case, but. And here, just, I think we'll cover that at the beginning and talk about how we have, but, based on what you were talking about, the A, B, C, and D, and D would be the worst case.
So when you do your work, there, people are gonna wanna know, well, how sure are we that that's the PCIA number? Is 21 high, is 21 low, is that the optimism, is that pessimism, is that realism? You'll have to just add commentary.
Yep.
And the answer to that is, we don't know with a high level of certainty, and that's why, whether it's the APD or the PD will determine what level we are at. We'll have a lot more certainty in November. So the other thing also, as we talk about the budget, one of our recommendations is to adopt the budget as proposed, knowing that there will be more certainty in November when we know what the PG&E rates are.
Do we
Come back
really
here.
expect, but from all of our market data right now, that PG&E is gonna drop 8%?
Yes.
Because we were told last year that they would probably
So-
drop, and they raised
Yeah.
9%. So
So I'll give you a sense of, in terms of our ability to forecast PG&E's rates, we need to invest more in actually getting a better forecast. Because you think of the value of this information is huge.
we just can't pay off the people in PG&E.
Well, don't they have to report this to CPUC?
Yes, so we're using their numbers. So this is what they've reported.
So this is what they've reported.
Yes, so they've reported 13%. We are estimating it's not gonna be 13, it'll be 8. But Howard's question is, do you even think it's gonna be 8?
Yeah.
Could it actually even go the opposite direction like it went last year?
Last year, the 9% was almost,
It's just, yeah,
it was out of the blue in a weird way. That was,
Yeah.
none of us were anticipating that.
They have to, by regulation, provide 3 forecasts, one in June, one in August, and one in November. So they provided the June forecast, and that's what these numbers, the 13% is PG&E's number. We are forecasting 8. The 30% is what we see in the alternative proposed decision, the APD. We are forecasting 21. We will get a new forecast. The August forecast should be out any day. That's the beginning of September. And we'll have more information at that point. The proposed decision is expected to be made in
The
September
day after
15th, the board meeting. So, to answer, the other thing is, as we continue to get into this business and get more mature and sophisticated, getting a better forecast of PG&E rates is essential.
Yes.
We can't just keep waiting. So we need to have someone who's actually going to give us a probability weighted range of what they think each year's rate is going to be.
Shouldn't the CCA help us with that?
I'm sorry?
Shouldn't the CCA?
You mean Cal CCA? Oh, they don't have staff. Cal CCA is a trade association.
I know, but
So,
I'm thinking of ways to
Couldn't we,
leverage costs.
couldn't we combine forces
Yes,
with all
so
the
I've
other
already talked to-
CCAs and PG&Es?
I've already talked to the CEOs of San Jose, Monterey, and Peninsula. All of them are interested in coming together to hire one consultant to do this. Yeah, because it'll be in a Northern California study and a Southern
Right,
California
that's what
study.
we're getting at.
So, you're right, so that's the direction we're heading right now.
With all of the CCAs forming, what kind of competition does that entail for us? Mostly on securing power, right?
Yes, to a certain extent, yeah, there are more people knocking on power suppliers' doors. At the end of the day, there's power, and there's a little more demand for renewable power.
But I mean, other than that, we're pretty much all on the same page and we all want to work together.
And
Correct.
then the marketplace is responding with new supplies.
Yes, and now there's a new element of competition with direct access.
Yeah, that's,
So
Right.
that just
that's the hunter.
went through the legislature last Friday.
We need to get to the governee.
Call Courtney.
No, I've called it.
Does she know him? Take advantage.
She better be on it.
And Smidian and Cortese.
Yeah, we full court press. What I just heard you say though is that PG&E has said 30 and 13. That's what they're officially on record as. And we're calling that our worst case. We don't think PG&E is going to show up in August and say 15 and 32?
No, so the 30 is actually the CP
CIA.
commissioner, it's the.
That's the alternate.
Alternate proposed decision, the 13 is PG&E. We don't expect that 30, to be more than 30%. This is the full court press from all CCAs. As a matter of fact, we'll be making a filing tonight, Cal CCA, talking about how to cap the rate of increase of the PCIA. And so one of the things we talk about is it could put CCAs, some CCAs, starting CCAs could basically delay their rollout. It could put some CCAs close to getting into the red. So we are requesting that the PUC consider a cap that's much less than this 30%. We're starting at I think 5 or maybe 10% cap. So you're basically spreading the payment over a longer period of time.
Okay. The ability to forecast at this point is very foggy, and I get that. But again, I want to just remind you, the PG&E thing almost was out of the blue. We had charts saying PG&E may decrease. And when they came back with this giant increase,
It was surprising.
everybody was surprised, and we were surprised. And I even said PG&E's doing a rope-a-dope on everybody to get us to cut our rates, and they're going to dramatically cut them next year. Ha 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 ha. But if they're saying 13, how can they go up 9 one year and down 13 the next?
So that's part of, I have to frankly tell you, some of the way in which they do the rates, I don't understand. They have so many balancing accounts. And when they're withdrawing money from certain balancing accounts, I've talked to one of the CCA consultants who've helped CCAs for the past 6 years and asked if they could help us with a study, and actually got the answer, no, you need a little more specialized skill than that, than what we can actually provide you. So we've identified a consultant who's helped us with PCIA proceeding, who has access to all the work papers from PG&E and Edison. I'm in touch with him as soon as the decision is out. we're meeting after that.
So, in your model, maybe I just missed it, if PG&E cuts by 8%, what is our rate?
Well, let's come to that. So our proposal for the budget would be if they do cut it by 8%, instead of being 6% below PG&E, we would adjust our rates to be back then to 1% below PG&E, which is how we come up with just a shade under 30 million net surplus. And all I'm trying to show here is that if we were to maintain that 6% or a different number other than the 1%, what that proposed or projected decrease would be in net surplus.
And this is weighted.
Weighted on
The PCIA would be,
PCA is still at, in this scenario, would stay at the 21%.
and the rate increase would take place next year.
January 1, right?
Yeah.
So we've got 3 months of the old rates in this fiscal year.
Yeah.
And if the 21%, 8% scenario holds true, we would still be above our min target for reserves and for this year. But we would, instead of where we're projecting to be at already at our max and about 3 years out, we would be still short of our actual target by 2021. However, there's a lot of things that are going to change over the next couple of years.
So many variables, but
Absolutely.
it's close to target.
Right. And that's just the
That
line
looks
item
so
budget.
much less rosy than last time.
The reserve picture? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is, people have to get their heads around what's going on.
That's right.
Those that are in the risk
Mm-hmm.
committee has seen this from an angle, and I'm
Yep.
assuming the executive committee has been seeing some of this from an angle. And, obviously the finance committee.
Yeah, we haven't met with the executive committee for a couple of months.
Right.
I think most of what we've been talking about is through the ROC and the F&A committee.
So as it stands right now, the budget we would present next week would have the 8% drop in rates. That may change based on whenever that August forecast that it comes out this
So
week.
it's an 8% drop in PG&E's rates.
Right.
So I'm not sure you necessarily need to put this in here, because you've already covered it. The
Right.
new base case, the budget, what you want to do is say the budget, how am I going to phrase this? The budget assumes an increase in our rates to stay 1% below PG&E. That's really the crux of it.
So actually say that, yeah, we're raising rates.
Yeah, so in a year where PG&E's cutting, we're gonna raise.
Except we're still going to be below.
I know, but in a
But
year
I
where
know,
they're
I
cutting,
know,
we're raising.
yeah.
So, we adopt this budget in September. When do we as a board actually decide on the rates? And the reason I say that is because it seems like we're gonna get more data and there's a November decision
Correct.
or a December decision, I don't know when we have to do it by, but later this year.
It's in December.
Yeah.
So may I suggest, I think we talked about this last year, but I'm not sure. We do a mid-year budget, right? So
Right.
ours is October, right? So October, November, December, January, February, March. So we would do, bless you, we would do a budget adjustment in the typical 6-month time period. But the board, we would prepare the board for a budget adjustment in December, if necessary.
I'm thinking slightly different than that.
Okay,
Which is if we set the rates in December, we should produce a budget that matches whatever those new
well,
rates are.
actually, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're not anticipating, we'll do our the normal process, I'm trying to give reassurance here. The normal process is at the 6-month period, we will revise. If things change drastically with November information, in December, we have to come back with rate changes and a revised budget, we will do so.
But there's even a discussion, right, even with these numbers, let's say this was our base scenario, there is a discussion about whether we should be 1% less than PG&E or 6%. Or anything in between, because
Well, but I think our role today has been to be conservative, okay? So we're now saying that,
no, I'm fine. My question isn't today, my question is in December.
I am agreeing with you.
We have a board meeting where we officially have to discuss and
Yes.
decide what our final
And we'll have
rates are.
alternatives at that point.
Yes,
We'll have,
All right.
at this point, a
Okay. I
recommendation
see
in
you.
December.
Okay, I was thinking
Yeah.
backwards, you're thinking forward.
Mine's
Okay, I
just-
got you, I got
yeah,
you.
mine's just the process at
Yeah.
that
We'll
point.
show the 1%
Yeah, now I'm with you.
as a recommendation, and we'll say alternatives to the recommendation. Keep it at 6%, at which point the reserve contribution is 15, and Don's reserve chart will just show. It'll take more years to get to the
Yeah,
target.
that's okay, I'm much better.
But so everybody knows, right, we're making this decision now. What I don't want is in December, people say, no, we already set the rates. No, we set the budget based on a set of assumptions. This
That's
is
where I made my mistake, so you're right.
Yeah, this is the
Point
meeting
out.
where we're gonna set the rates. And I'm not just, December sounds too late, because if it has to go in effect on January 1st, don't we have to set them in November? Or did we call a special meeting last time?
Yeah, so,
I don't know.
One thing also to think about is you're probably gonna get a number of new people on the board. So do you wanna deal with a bunch of new people, or do you wanna try to do this first? My guess is I'll
Rates
be
take-
out first week of December.
No, but rates take effect, on January 1st. So how many weeks before that do we have to set them?
So back when we first started, our first rate setting, I think was February board meeting, or it was January's board meeting, because it was January 1st when the rates finally were,
Yeah, it
because
took them a
PGA
while.
was so
like December
late.
31st was the
PGA
day
was
that
so
they,
late.
and
and so
so,
March, we had another meeting, because I was at that meeting.
Right.
that's when, yeah, so that was this year.
Because they were-
Prior year, we did it, I think, in January to be effective
No,
February.
but this time, there was a delay in PG&Es.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
So if PG&E is on time,
Assuming PG&E is on time,
then we
When do
need
you
to
need
meet
to
right
meet?
after that.
okay.
And then the question is, when do we go effective versus PG&E?
Yeah.
So if they go effective January 1st, does that assume we're February 1st?
There was, when we first started the ages, there was a 1 month
These
lag.
are important lessons
Yeah.
learned from this past year.
But it would be neat to just be able to say, look, this is approving a budget with budget assumptions. You actually will set the rate. And I agree with Burton, I think it would be very good if we could set the rates before we turned over members. When's your last day?
I don't know officially, but my guess is at our first meeting in December.
Well, it has to be 31 days
31 days.
So it's
after the
gonna,
election.
so it's,
So-
the first meeting in December, you're the first and third Tuesdays,
First and third Tuesday.
so you can't do the first Tuesday.
All right, so then the second,
Yeah, so we'll have to do it in the November meeting.
No, wait a minute,
No, 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 'cause
let's
I'll
look
be-
at the dates. So when is our board meeting in December? That's the first question. Oh, our meeting in December is the second week of December.
Yes,
I see what you're saying.
yes.
yeah, the
December
ninth.
12th.
So typically,
Well,
Yes,
then,
what you're saying.
we wouldn't turn over until the 15th.
we have a special meeting on the 10th.
You guys have a special meeting, because that's
You
the
guys
day.
have literally 31 days, yes.
Well, it's the 4th isn't 30 days, the 6th is 30 days, so we'll have it on Monday, the 10th, yeah. We don't have a second meeting,
Wait a minute, why am I looking at December 10th as a Thursday?
so it's a Monday.
December 2018?
In December 10 Monday.
Click on one of those. There you go. That
All
makes
right, all
sense.
right. Now, it said December, but the dates were actually January.
Okay,
Yes, December 10th.
December 10th is when we change.
So we'll be changing on,
So Los Gatos changes in November,
Because
they
they
do it weirdly.
pre-assign their people regardless of
Yeah,
actual swearing the people in.
right.
But after it's known.
we could do it on the 4th. I mean, we've done it before that way.
But it's not legal.
Then,
They've added,
then we're gonna do it on the 18th.
Okay.
All right, then we'll be here, I'll be here.
To
Our
December
meeting is the
18th.
12th. Our meeting is the 12th.
No, I mean, I'll be good for the 12th.
you're gonna have a challenge maybe on the 12th anyway. Because that's the week that all the councils, you have to swear in all your new people and do all that stuff. So who knows if councils will schedule themselves on the 12th or something.
And also, a lot
We'll have to look
of,
at that week, it'll be
a lot of
very,
councils also do their appointments in November.
Our council does the appointments in January.
We do ours in November, December.
We do our Southern Land in December, because we want the new mayor to be in effect, because the mayor makes the choice.
The mayor makes
And
all
Right.
the
and
decisions.
for us, the new mayor doesn't happen till that reorg meeting
Right,
with the
same with us.
swearing in and all
Yeah,
that.
same
But
with
the
us.
first official act of the mayor is to request everybody send feedback, and then the next regular council meeting, they produce it. So that makes it the second meeting in December for us, all the way to get to that. But it's for the mayor to do. But in Los Gatos, I guess it's the old mayor that decides.
I honestly don't know. No, it can't be, because I
No.
know Rob Rennie made all the decisions this time around, so I don't know.
So they must decide who their new mayor is before the new council members are even sworn in. And I've seen that
I don't
happen
know.
before too.
So just as we've spoken, it's gonna be a little chaotic. So I think we learned a lot of lessons last year about when we needed to set the rates. And it got kind of wampus because PG&E was delayed, but we need to assume they aren't gonna be delayed.
For
Which
s-
sounds like you need to be prepared to have a rate setting in November. The
No.
problem is you won't have the information from PG&E by November, so we may have to have a special meeting.
I think we ended up that, I think you should try for November 14th and have the discussion even with the data that we have. So then all the experienced board members can sort of go on record. And then when you come back with the
Mhm.
final data, you can say,
Mhm.
the board's last decision, direction was this, and now we got the final PG&E
Yeah.
data. That way if it falls in January or February or special meeting in December.
Yeah.
But November 14th, everybody will still be in their seat.
Yep,
And
for
we-
sure.
And we can weigh in one last time.
Mhm.
And we will also have a sense, we'll know where the elections landed. So if people are not going to be here, they'll be able to know by then.
And we'll tee that up in our presentation too.
Because we figured, what, there's 6 or 7.
Half of the board is up for election or
Or
going
gone.
off.
I'm going off. Probably Aver takes over is my guess. I mean, he was the alternate,
My alternate.
but he's never been to a meeting.
No, nor is mine. Okay. I'm very
Are
short
we
on
done?
time.
No, we
got
have one more
more.
item.
Yeah.
Then let's finish it.
Yeah.
This is a quick item.
It's closed session, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're back from closed session and there's nothing to report. So at this time, I would like to ask if there are any committee or staff remarks. Any?
I have none.
Okay, at that, I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You guys.